before the world had time to know him, he was already fighting. Even in the womb, the struggle began. Two brothers, one womb, one war. The younger clawed to come first, the elder crushed to dominate. But this was no ordinary sibling rivalry. This was the beginning of a divine paradox. And so Jacob was born, gripping Esau's heel. His name whispered his nature, heel catcher, deceiver. But hidden beneath that name was a calling to wrestle with men, a calling to wrestle with God. Esau hunted the wild beasts of the field. Jacob tended the quiet things. One chased blood, the other waited and watched. But God does not see as man sees. And though Isaac loved Esau, the strong, the fast, the fearless, God had his eye on Jacob, not for what he was, but for what he would become. Hunger has a sound. It growls, it blinds, it makes kings bow and brothers bargain. Esau returned from the wilderness, empty of strength, full of craving. And there was Jacob, patient, calculating, a bowl of red lentil stew bubbling in his hand. The smell reached Esau's throat like a lion's claw. "Feed me," Esau gasped. "Give me that red stew." But Jacob saw his moment. He saw the value of what Esau could not see. "Sell me your birthright," Jacob whispered, "not with greed, but with quiet certainty, the right to lead, the right to carry the covenant, the right to be remembered." And just like that, the sacred was exchanged for the shallow, a destiny traded for dinner. Jacob did not steal it. Esau gave it away, and heaven was silent, not because it did not see, but because the story was still unfolding. Jacob held the birthright, but not the blessing. And to reach it, he would still have to deceive and be broken. Time passed, and the moment came. Isaac, old, blind, and near death, called for his firstborn. "Bring me wild game, that I may bless you before I die." But Rebekah overheard, and the mother remembered the prophecy, "The older will serve the younger." She moved quickly, not in rebellion, but in fear, not out of pride, but urgency. She believed the blessing must go to Jacob, even if it meant deception. Jacob resisted. "What if he feels me?" he asked. "What if I bring a curse instead of a blessing?" But fear moves fast, and soon the son stood before the father. "Who are you, my son?" The question hung like thunder, and Jacob answered, "I am Esau, your firstborn." With that lie came a flood of blessing. Isaac poured the words of heaven into Jacob's trembling frame. "May God give you the dew of heaven, the fatness of the earth. Let nations bow to you." And the truth broke open the tent like lightning. "Who are you?" Isaac cried. "Your brother came deceitfully and has taken your blessing." Esau wept bitterly, the cry of a man who had despised what was now lost forever. Isaac shook, Esau raged, and Jacob fled. The blessing was his, but peace was not. For what is a blessing if it costs you your home, your brother, your name? Jacob had received what he wanted, but he no longer knew who he was. He fled, not as a victor, but as a fugitive. The one who grasped the blessing now walked in fear, alone, empty, hunted. Jacob laid his head on a stone, far from tents, far from home, far from everything familiar. But God was not far. That night, the sky opened. In his sleep, Jacob saw a ladder, stretching from earth to heaven. And above it stood the Lord, speaking not in wrath, but in mercy. "I am the Lord, the God of Abraham and of Isaac. I will give you this land. I will not leave you." No rebuke, no shame, just a promise. He whispered, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not." He called the place Bethel, the house of God, and there, alone in the wild, Jacob made a vow. "If God will be with me, and give me food to eat and clothes to wear, then the Lord shall be my God." Not a perfect vow, but a beginning. For in the dark, God had lit a stairway, and Jacob, though still limping with lies, had taken his first step upward. When the world casts you out, God calls you in. Haran, a place that felt like a delay, but was part of the design. Jacob had fled for his life, but what he would find here was himself. At a well, under the sun, he met her, Rachel, beautiful, gentle, desired, and his heart was caught. He rolled away the stone, watered her flock, and wept. Love has a cost, and Jacob was willing to pay it. 7 years he labored for her, under the hand of Laban, her father. And the Bible says, "They seemed unto him but a few days for the love he had for her." But on the night of his wedding, deception came in the dark. Laban had tricked him. The deceiver was now deceived, and Jacob, the one who once wore his brother's name, now wakes to a bride he never chose. "Finish this bridal week," Laban said, "and I'll give you Rachel also for another 7 years." So Jacob labored again, 7 more years, 7 long, slow, humbling years. Time does something to the soul. It either hardens or it humbles, and through sweat, silence, and slow learning, Jacob began to change. He had chased the blessing. Now he was learning to carry it. In Laban's house, Jacob found more than wives and flocks. He found the mirror of his own deception, and in that mirror, he began to see God's patience. Sometimes God puts a Jacob in a Laban's house to show him his own heart. Time passed, and in the silence of the fields, God began to bless Jacob. The flocks increased. The spotted and speckled multiplied. The hand of heaven was upon him. But not all favor is welcome. The man who once had nothing now had too much. And favor, even divine favor, can make you a target. One night, God spoke again, not with thunder, but with calling. "Return to your land, Jacob. I will be with you." No details, no guarantees, just a promise. And so, Jacob fled, not in rebellion, but in obedience. Laban gave chase, his heart burning with wounded pride. But God warned Laban in a dream, "Speak neither good nor bad to Jacob." And once again, God protected him. They made a covenant at Mizpah. Stones were stacked, words were exchanged, and Jacob walked free. But another storm was waiting, one greater than Laban, one that wore the face of a brother. When God blesses you, He may also call you to confront what you fled. He was alone. Everything he had crossed over the river. Wives, children, flocks, future. But Jacob remained behind, alone, not just in body, but in soul. He had obeyed God, but fear still lingered. Esau was coming with 400 men. So he cried out, "O God of my fathers, deliver me. I am not worthy of the least of all your mercies." And then the silence broke. A man wrestled with him all night until the breaking of the day. No name, no explanation, only the struggle. Every time Jacob fought for control, the man matched him. Every grip, every throw, every gasp met with equal resistance, until the man touched his hip. And in that moment, the fight changed. Jacob could no longer wrestle, but he would not let go. He clung, not out of strength, but out of surrender. I will not let you go unless you bless me. What is your name? And Jacob whispers it. Jacob, deceiver, heel catcher, usurper. And the man answers, your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel, for you have struggled with God and with men, and have prevailed. Then he blessed him. Jacob limped away from Peniel, but something had changed. Not just his walk, but his name. His identity was no longer stolen. It was given. Brokenness is the doorway to blessing. God doesn't just change your path, He changes your name. The sun rose, and Jacob walked, limping. Every step a reminder, not of defeat, but of transformation. He had wrestled with God and lived, but now he had to face the man he feared most, Esau. He prepared gifts, bowed 7 times. But this was not manipulation, it was humility. He had stolen the blessing. Now he offered peace. Esau ran and embraced him. He wept on Jacob's neck. No revenge, no bitterness, only grace. And in that moment, Jacob knew God had gone before him. Esau asked, "Why all this?" And Jacob replied, "To find favor in your eyes, my Lord, for to see your face is like seeing the face of God." Not flattery, but revelation. For Jacob had seen the face of God at Peniel, and now he saw it again, in forgiveness. He had deceived, fled, wrestled, and waited. And now he walked into his future, not by force, but by faith. True courage is walking back to what you once ran from after God has changed you. Jacob returned to the land of promise, but he was no longer the same man who had left with only a staff in his hand. He returned with 12 sons, with riches, with a limp, and with a new name. Even in the promised land, sin finds its way in. Jacob feared the neighboring tribes. His family was in danger, and once again, God spoke. "Go up to Bethel and dwell there. Make an altar to the God who appeared to you when you fled from your brother." So Jacob called his household together, and he said something he had never said before. "Put away your foreign gods. Purify yourselves. We're going to meet God." He did not just return to the land. He returned to the God of the land. And at Bethel, the place of the dream, the place where God met him on the run, Jacob built an altar. And there, God appeared again. "I am El Shaddai. Be fruitful and multiply. Kings shall come from you." The promise of Abraham passed once more through a man who had wrestled with God and lost, to be changed. Revival begins when we bury our idols and return to the altar. Jacob had become Israel, but life still held sorrow. On the road from Bethel, Rachel went into labor. Her soul was departing. She named the child Ben-Oni, son of my sorrow. But Jacob renamed him Benjamin, son of my right hand. The woman he loved was gone, yet the promise lived on. Years passed, sons quarreled. Joseph was betrayed and sold. Jacob grieved, thinking him dead. But through every twist, every pain, God's hand remained. In the end, Jacob would be brought to Egypt by the son he thought he lost. And there, he would bless Pharaoh and speak of the God who had led him. "All my life long, the angel who redeemed me from all evil." And before he died, Israel leaned on his staff and worshipped, not as a man who had stolen, but as a man who had been changed. He was born grasping a heel. He lived chasing a blessing. He died carrying a name, Israel, a name that would become a nation, a people, a promise. Jacob was the man. Israel was the mission. Sometimes God must wrestle us to rename us. The incredible story of Jacob, the man who wrestled with God.